All right, so how to properly express your emotions in a relationship. So many guys get this completely screwed up because, on one hand, you have the modern society, the modern effeminate society telling men that it's okay to cry and weep and express your emotions and be in touch with your feminine side with your wife or your girlfriend, which is totally untrue and totally uncalibrated. And then you have the other side, which are the red pill dudes telling you that if you show any emotions, she's for sure going to cheat on you, bro, because of hypergamy or whatever other nonsense they talk about. The fact of the matter is, like with most things, the answer is in the middle. And there's a way to do it that doesn't make you look like an effeminate little girl, and a way to do it that doesn't make you look like you're this stoic badass that you absolutely are not. Maybe you are, but most likely if you're watching this video, you're probably not. And that those kinds of men comprise of a very small percentage of the population. But my wife has seen me go through the whole spectrum of emotions. But the one thing that I've made sure to do, no matter what, she's seen me go through periods where friends have died, where I'm going through a really low point, or I'm going through addiction. She's seen me tear up. She's seen me, get angry. She's seen me become depressed and sad and anxious. But the frame in which I make sure that I am operating within when I'm speaking about these things is a frame of power. And this is what I mean. The biggest mistake I see men make in this is victimizing themselves and having this woe is me, self-pity type of tone when they're communicating this to the woman that they're with. So, things like, I don't know why this keeps happening to me. I'm just trying to do my best, but life keeps slapping me in the face and I just can't do it anymore. There's this tone of like, life is happening and I'm a helpless victim of my life, where I don't think really any man is. Even people that are, terrible things are happening to them. You're not a victim, as maybe in very rare exceptional cases where you're in a war-torn country. That's a different set of circumstances. I'm talking for us in the West. There are very few things we can point to and say that I'm truly a victim of circumstance. And if you're a man that has this frame of mind, you're operating within an obviously very incredibly weak frame. So that's number one. Don't operate within that self-pity, woe is me, like, oh, why does this keep happening to me? Oh, you want to dry her up like the Sahara Desert. You want her to have no respect for you whatsoever. Use that frame, use that tone, be overly emotional and express how you're just a helpless victim of your life. You want to completely lose her attraction to you, that's the way to do it. So don't operate within that frame. Instead, anytime anything's happened to me, the frame in which I operate is a frame of, I'm going through something right now. It's hard. I'm feeling, all over the place, sadness, emotion, all of this stuff. I'm depressed. I have a case of the darkness upstairs where there's just a dark cloud over my life right now, but I know it'll pass. It's a tough time right now, but I know it'll pass. And listen, there's been times, guys, where I've been ripped with like suicidal ideation. I'm in a deep pit, especially after I got baptized. I felt like there was some spiritual warfare going on. And my wife has seen me in some pretty down low places. But even still, I look at her and I communicate with her, hey, listen, this is what's going on. Because the thing is here, guys, you're in a relationship. You want to develop a deep level of intimacy. And by being this stoic badass all the time, by not letting her in at all, you're not going to have the enthusiastic, intimate life that you really want. You're not going to be able to really connect with her on a deep level because there's nothing beyond the surface. Now, I can respect where these guys are coming from and what they're trying to do, but this is a complete lack of calibration. There's no integration of these emotions. Listen, God has given us these emotions for a reason. He's given us these emotions to feel, but not to allow them to rule over us. Okay? It's totally normal to feel sad and that you want to cry and all those things, but you have to be able to control it. You have to be able to calibrate it. So the guy that's not showing anything at all, it's just a matter of time until his flesh weakens and there's going to be a little bit of a crack and he's going to blow up either with anger or he's just going to weep uncontrollably because he hasn't allowed those emotions to flow through him properly. And on the other hand, you have these weak, effeminate dudes that by over-explaining their emotions and by crying incessantly in front of their women, that they're going to develop that closer relationship. What all that shows is a lack of control. So both of these guys have one thing in common. It's a lack of calibration. It's a lack of control. You want to be able to feel them, experience them, but do not let them control you. And when you're explaining, and listen, I've said this before, my wife has seen me cry, but I'm not weeping. I'm not like, I'm not in like the fetal position and she's hugging me and I'm crying into her shirt. I'm tearing up for sure. She's seen tears flow down my face, but there's still a way that you can operate from a position of strength. not weeping, not being this like blubbering mess. I've done that, but I do that in private. There is a silent burden of being a man, guys, that we have to understand, that the women that we're with, the women that we're married to, they're not our mothers, and we cannot expect them to mother us. Do we expect support and sometimes emotional support? Absolutely. But by weeping and crying and crawling into the fetal position, having her pat your head, this is not the way. That's not the way. So being overly emotional is not the way. Being overly stoic is not the way. When you're communicating that you're going through a rough time, the way to frame it and the position you should be in is always a position of, I've got power over this situation, no matter how bad it is. I've been in some seriously dark places. But what my wife knows about me is that I still get the job done. I still tick off the duties for the day. I still take care of my role as husband and father to the best of my ability. I wasn't doing the greatest job, but I know I was still showing up for the job. And so again, to reiterate, when you're explaining what's going on, explain it from a position of authority. Like, I have authority over this situation. I'm going through a dark period right now. There's a lot of points where I feel like crying. There's a lot of points where I don't feel like getting out of bed. I'm anxious. I'm stressed out about the future. It's uncertain. I don't know where each step is going. These are all things that I've said to my wife verbatim. I miss my family back home because I moved, from a different province here. These are just some examples that I've used with my wife. And so I kind of feel alone. I'm in this dark place. I know it'll pass, but I want to let you know where I'm at, because you see me walking around and I look like a bit of a zombie. Maybe I look a little bit disconnected. Maybe I look sad. But just so you know the page that I'm on, this is where I'm at. And so by operating from that position, you now give her space and a place to actually encourage and support you. Because if you're the stoic badass, she's constantly trying to get in. And if there's overly emotional, whatever, that almost provides too much chaos for her life, because she's got already the chaos of her emotions to deal with and of her frame to deal with. But when you operate from this position of, yes, I'm going through something, it's hard, I feel like crying at times, I'm anxious, I'm stressed, I got a case of the darkness upstairs, but I know it'll pass. You have this gap where she can fill in that gap with encouragement, with kindness, with positivity. Because I really truly believe that's part of the feminine essence in a man's life, is being that ray of sunshine and encouragement and support. And man, my wife has been there for me through some really, really tough times. And I've had to get this calibration, this emotional communication wrong at times for me to understand how to get it right. Right? So for the overly emotional guy, you got to have a little bit more self-control. You got to operate from within a stronger frame, because you're not able to lead your relationship properly if that's how you're, conducting yourself. And for the guy over here, allow yourself to feel some emotions, allow it to get messy, right? Find yourself a circle of men where this can get messy in, so there is that sort of safety. Don't become a blubbering mess all of a sudden in front of your woman, but express what's going on. Because there was a time where I tried to be this stoic badass, and then eventually something happened. It was a really good friend of mine passed away during COVID, and my wife saw me cry for the first time. And she sat me down. It was like a day or two later, and she said, I actually felt way closer to you. You tried to put on this front that you were this guy that could handle it all. And when you finally sort of showed a crack, I felt like I could actually step in and become closer to you and support you through it. That was huge. Listen, if you want a relationship, you want a marriage to go the distance, you have to understand you're going to go through peaks and valleys. And she's going to see you in all kinds of different states. You have to understand, emotions you can absolutely experience, but you can't let them rule over you. And when you're communicating them to her, that doesn't mean that you can't shed a tear, unless it's all the time. Don't do that all the time. It doesn't mean that you can't communicate what's going on, that you're feeling really down. But you also have to communicate that you have control over it and that you're doing your best to move through it. You're not a victim of circumstance. Don't woe is me through that conversation. No self-pity, a position of power. No matter how little power you actually feel in that situation, no matter how powerless you feel in that situation, it's incredibly important that you operate from that framework. Not because you're trying to show her how much of a man you are. That's important, but it gives her a healthy space for her to step in and encourage you. And that's the most important part of this, guys. It's emotional calibration. Okay? So that's all I wanted to say in this video. And my family calling me upstairs. So like, comment, subscribe. I'll catch you in the next one.